In the early 1900s, alcohol prohibition provided a lucrative opportunity for criminal organizations. That was where it all started for the Genovese crime family. Even though they say crime doesn't pay, several rich gangsters prove otherwise. There is no denying that the Genovese crime family bosses amassed enormous fortunes through their illicit activities. The question is, how rich were the Genovese crime family bosses? Mafia Wealth Assets. First, the Genovese crime family is one of the 5 families of the Mafia in New York City and New Jersey. They are infamous for being related to Italian organized crime. From 1931 until 1957, when it was rechristened after its new boss, Vito Genovese, the current family was known as the Luciano crime family, named after its founder Charles Luciano. Among the 5 families of the Mafia, the Genovese crime family are the most established and numerous. By 1925, Luciano's illegal gambling and bootlegging operations in New York and Philadelphia generated annual revenues of over $12 million, or about $203.64 million today, and an annual personal income of about $4 million. After his detention, his position was taken over by Vito Genovese, who later fled a murder charge. We'll talk very soon about Vito Genovese, the namesake of the Genovese crime family, his return and reign as family boss, so stay tuned. Frank Costello, a close friend and confidant of Luciano's, took over as family boss after Vito was forced to flee. Frank Costello was born on January 18, 1891, in Cassano allo Ionio, Calabria. In 1973, when he passed away, Italian organized crime boss and mafia gangster Frank Costello had a net worth of $1 billion, adjusting for inflation. Frank oversaw one of the world's most lucrative and influential criminal enterprises during his lifetime. His criminal empire at its height was worth approximately $66.7 billion after adjusting for inflation. He ascended to the highest levels of American Italian organized crime, where he oversaw a gambling empire and wielded significant political power.
Organized crime?
Costello earned the title Prime Minister of the Underworld due to his authoritative role in the criminal world. He stepped down when his successor, Vito Genovese, came for his seat and eventually named the family after himself. Moving on, Vito Genovese, who had fled to Italy to avoid a murder charge, returned home after being deported to the United States. On June 11, 1946, Genovese was released from jail because the state had failed to produce a witness who had been killed. He slowly regained control of the narcotics trade in New York City by ordering the murders of several of his rivals, including William Moretti in 1951, Albert Anastasia in 1957, and allegedly Frank Costello in 1957, which resulted in a failed attempt by Vincent Gigante. Gigante would later become a crime family boss. We'll talk about his reign as Genovese crime family head very soon, so stay tuned. Fearing for his life, Frank resigned from his position in the legislature. Vito became the capo dei capi, translated as boss of all bosses, exerting his influence over the 5 families of the Mafia. He was indicted in 1958 on federal charges of narcotics smuggling and distribution. He was guilty and given a 15-year prison term in 1959.
Guilty.
It is widely believed that his arrest was part of a plan devised by Genovese's former boss, Luciano, to exact revenge on him. Even while imprisoned, he maintained his position as ruler. He issued death warrants for his enemies, increasing the power and wealth of the Genovese crime family. Pinpointing these criminal geniuses' precise wealth is a formidable challenge. However, this channel stays dedicated to finding and bringing you only the best info. So subscribe and get an alert whenever we drop a video. Furthermore, Philip Lombardo took over after Vito Genovese. Known to the public and FBI, the successor to the Genovese crime family head was Thomas Ippoliti. However, he was the only front boss, a position created by Philip Lombardo. To be specific, since 1965, Lombardo had been in charge, and he had been using Thomas Ippoliti and Frank Terry as cover while avoiding the FBI. When Terry passed away, Lombardo resigned as boss due to ill health. he named Vincent Gigante his successor. He appointed Anthony Fat Tony Salerno as the new front boss to conceal his ascension to power. This would ensure that the FBI would be in the dark about who was actually in charge. After most other Italian organized crime mobsters had left East Harlem in the 1960s as it became more black and Latino, Fat Tony Salerno made his millions running the numbers and drugs racket. Salerno, the Genovese crime family's frontman, was dubbed America's top gangster in 1986 by Fortune magazine, thanks to his enormous wealth and power. Salerno was found guilty of racketeering in 1988 and given a 70-year prison term. Moreover, Vincent Gigante had to put in a lot of work to keep up the act he adopted in the mid-1960s, which earned him the moniker Odd Father. In his pajamas, bathrobe, and slippers, he was a common sight shuffling around the streets of Greenwich Village, mumbling to himself and giving off the impression of a disturbed but ultimately harmless eccentric.
They ain't gonna answer you. You don't understand.
His doctors say the man in pajamas is mentally ill. Not a godfather, but a man with the mind of a child.
According to law enforcement officials, prosecutors, and mafia defectors, his actions were all part of a carefully crafted act to keep him from facing justice for his role in building the most powerful and prosperous crime family in the country during his tenure as boss Genovese crime family. Federal and state investigators claim that Mr. Gigante was obligated to receive up to $100 million annually from the family's 200 inducted soldiers and approximately 1,000 associates. Mr. Gigante was regarded by FBI agents and federal and state prosecutors as the most elusive mafia leader of his era and the most challenging to bring to trial. John S. Pritchard III, a former FBI supervisor, said of Vincent Gigante, "He was probably the most clever, organized crime figure I have ever seen." Although the Genovese crime family's leadership was unclear after Gigante's death in 2005, they now appear to be the most well-organized and powerful family in the United States, allegedly led by Liborio Bellomo. Do you think Liborio Bellomo is the current boss of the Genovese crime family? Share your thoughts in the comment section. In the 21st century, the Genovese crime family looked for new avenues to committing a wave of mortgage frauds. They've also used modern technology to direct customers to bet in offshore havens and expand their illegal gambling business. No doubt they will continue to amass wealth through illegal means because, heedless to what has been said, crime does pay. If you enjoyed watching this video, you would like our next Why Is It So Hard to Find Cleopatra's Tomb?